Welcome to Teolumen Insights, where we reveal the hidden forces that shape the way you live and show you how to use them to create real transformation and supercharge your health, mindset, and daily life. Here are your hosts, Emma Greenwood and Nathan Sinclaire.
You ever get the feeling that there's just more? More to reality than what we see on the surface?
Oh, exactly.
Like you're catching glimpses of something deeper, something, just out of reach.
Yeah.
We get that feeling a lot, and that's exactly why we do this. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the noise to bring you truly fascinating ideas that can shift your perspective.
And today we're venturing into a concept that might just stretch your mind a bit.
Oh, yeah. What have we got?
The idea of reality as they call it a time crystal egg.
Yeah.
That holds our awareness.
A time crystal egg. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds intriguing. Maybe a little out there.
It might sound a little wild, I know. But think of it less like science fiction and more like a potential framework, a new way to look at ourselves and the world around us.
Framework. Okay.
What if consciousness, reality, and your very place in it were all contained within this egg?
Okay, forget complicated theories for a second. Let's break this down. What could this time crystal egg idea actually mean for us, for the listener?
Right. We're going to explore how it might change your understanding of, say, your connections with others, the way you perceive time itself.
The power you have to shape your experiences.
Exactly. And the incredible potential you might not even know you possess. Get ready for some surprising insights, I think.
All right, I'm buckled in. So this time crystal egg, what does that even look like? What are we talking about here?
Okay, imagine a crystal, but not just a static three-dimensional object, like a quartz crystal.
Right.
This is described as a four-dimensional crystal lattice, and it's made of consciousness itself.
Consciousness is the crystal.
That's the idea. It extends in the familiar three spatial dimensions, X, Y, Z, but also infinitely along a fourth dimension.
Oh, fourth dimension, okay.
Let's call it the omega axis. Think of this omega axis as the realm of pure potentiality, the unmanifest source from which everything arises. It's like the ultimate creative wellspring.
So this entire reality we experience is like this massive four-dimensional structure built out of consciousness. Whoa! And the egg part. That suggests a container, right? Something holding us.
Exactly. Within this vast crystal lattice, your individual awareness that you, listening right now, is contained, nurtured, almost like an infinite being in incubation.
Incubation, huh?
This egg holds your unique perspective. And here's a fascinating twist.
Okay.
While your experience of the world, your witnessing faculty, feels uniquely your own, everything and everyone outside that direct focus of your awareness, they can be seen as extensions of your own self within this container.
Whoa, hang on. So even though we feel like separate individuals, people walking down the street, my family, this idea suggests there's somehow extensions of me. That's a major shift.
It is. It points to a really, really deep interconnectedness. Your consciousness isn't limited to just your physical form. It spans across all the dimensions of this egg.
So my body, my thoughts right now, that's just one specific viewpoint within this bigger thing.
Exactly. You, in your current human experience, are a specific expression, a unique identity within this larger consciousness held within the egg. And as you navigate life with your individual desires and the way you categorize things, what we often call the ego, you're not truly isolated from the whole.
Okay, so we're all part of this giant consciousness egg. Now, how do our thoughts, our intentions, our daily focus, how do those interact with this egg? Do we actually have any influence?
Oh, absolutely. Your focused attention, your intentions, and your overall state of consciousness are incredibly powerful within this egg.
Really?
Yeah. Think of the energy you direct through your awareness as creating ripples throughout the entire system. What you consistently focus on tends to become, more prominent in your experience.
So the old saying, what you focus on grows, might actually have a deeper, almost structural basis in this time crystal egg idea, like it's built into the system.
There's a strong resonance there, yes.
Yeah.
Now, this perspective, it could lead someone to think, okay, if everything outside my direct awareness is an extension of me, am I the only one who truly exists?
Right. I can see how someone might go there. That sounds a bit lonely and maybe arrogant.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of progressive solipsism comes in the potential danger of seeing yourselves as completely separate or viewing the world only as your projection without acknowledging the intrinsic reality and experience of those other extensions.
Yeah, that sounds like a viewpoint that could lead to isolation and a lack of empathy, for sure. But you mentioned something earlier, a force that counteracts that, something that unifies.
Yes, love. Within this time crystal egg, love is presented as the fundamental essence, the force that binds everything together.
So consciousness is the structure, but love is the glue.
You could put it that way. While consciousness is the guiding principle, love is the unifying energy that maintains harmony within the constant flow and change. When you recognize those extensions of yourself, other people, other beings, as also being expressions of this universal love and consciousness, your interactions with them shift. They shift from separation to connection.
That really reframes things. It moves us from an us versus them kind of mentality to a sense of shared being. Okay. Now let's talk about time. You said it's a four-dimensional crystal. Time must be pretty interesting in this model. How do our past, present, and future experiences fit within this egg?
Right. Our everyday awareness, it feels anchored in the present moment.
Yeah.
But that's just one slice of a much larger reality.
It's just one slice.
Yeah. Our experience of the past isn't a fixed linear recording like a videotape you rewind. It's more like a vast, multidimensional field of possibilities that have unfolded.
A field of possibilities?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the future.
Similarly, the future isn't a single predetermined path, but an infinite array of potential outcomes, all existing as potentials within the egg.
So the past isn't totally set in stone and the future is wide open. Okay, here's where my mind starts to bend a little.
Exactly. It's pretty mind-bending. From this perspective, it's suggested that through deeply focused intention in the present, you can subtly influence the way the past resonates with you.
Wait, influence the past? Not change what happened necessarily, but change its energetic imprint, how it affects you now. And you can even draw potential from the future into your current reality. The past, in a sense, remains a field that can be subtly nudged within the container.
And the future.
By directing your attention towards specific future possibilities, you strengthen their likelihood of manifesting. You're essentially pulling them closer in that field of potential.
That sounds almost like time travel without a DeLorean. How might we actually see this play out in our lives? Is it just theoretical?
Well, think about those moments of retro-cognition, where you suddenly have a vivid memory or insight about a past event you didn't consciously recall, maybe something you hadn't thought about in years.
Yeah, happens sometimes.
That could be seen as your awareness briefly accessing a different point in that infinite field of past possibilities within the egg.
Okay. And what about premonitions? Those gut feelings about the future?
Those intuitive flashes. Those could be interpreted as your awareness reaching out and touching potential future timelines within this same container, sensing the probabilities.
So time isn't a straight line, but more like a giant interconnected web within this egg.
Wow. Okay, shifting gears slightly. We've talked about shaping our experiences through focus. How does the popular idea of the law of attraction fit into this time crystal egg framework?
Yeah.
Is it related?
It fits quite naturally, actually. Within this model, the law of attraction can be understood as a form of, well, conscious gravity.
Conscious gravity, I like that. Explain.
Just as physical gravity pulls objects together based on their mass, consciousness, your state of awareness, your dominant thoughts and feelings, attracts experiences and manifestations based on their vibrational resonance.
So it's not just like attracts like, it's more like a pulling force.
Exactly. This attraction works from the subtle levels of thought and energy, pulling things into the denser physical reality we experience. So our thoughts and feelings have a kind of gravitational pull. Can you give us a practical example of how this might work day to day?
Sure. Consider the difference between constantly worrying about not having enough money versus focusing on gratitude for what you do have and the possibility of abundance.
Okay. Scarcity versus abundance mindset.
Right. If your dominant thoughts are centered on lack, I can't afford this, I'm always struggling, you're essentially sending out a vibrational signal of scarcity. According to this conscious gravity, you'll likely attract more situations that reinforce that feeling of lack. It's what your consciousness is pulling in.
Makes sense. And the alternative.
On the other hand, if you focus on appreciation for what you have, on the potential for more, and maybe even on giving generously from what you do have, you're aligning yourself with a different frequency. And the universe, or the egg, if you will, responds by bringing you more opportunities for abundance and more reasons for gratitude.
That resonates with a lot of people's experiences, I think. It's like your attention acts as a magnet, pulling similar energies towards you. You also had a really interesting analogy about Google searches that illustrated this.
Oh, right, yes. Think about using a search engine. If you type in, say, pictures of happiness, what do you get?
Pictures of happy people smiling, sunshine, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Now, what if you try a negative search? Like, I don't want to see sad pictures.
I'd probably still see results related to sadness, maybe articles about avoiding sadness, or even just sad pictures that the algorithm thinks are relevant to the keyword sad.
Precisely. The core focus of your intention is still sadness, even though you're trying to negate it. The universe, according to this idea, operates similarly. It responds to the primary focus of your attention, the core vibration, not necessarily the negation like don't or not.
So focusing on what we don't want can inadvertently bring more of it into our experience because that's where the energy is going. That's a really powerful takeaway.
Wow. Okay, now, moving beyond our thoughts and intentions. What about our own energy, our personal energy field? How does that interact with this bigger time crystal egg?
Good question. Within this framework, those subtle energies spoken of in various traditions, torsion fields, orgone energy, chi, prana.
Yeah, all those different names for life force energy.
Exactly. They are seen as emanating from your own energetic vortex, your personal biofield. Imagine this biofield as another egg-shaped container of energy, but smaller, nested within the larger time crystal egg.
Okay, like my own personal energy bubble.
Sort of, yeah. And it has a dynamic toroidal flow energy constantly moving inwards toward your center and outwards into the environment in a balanced exchange, like a donut shape, constantly flowing.
A torus.
Okay.
And how does this connect to things like chakras or acupuncture points that we hear about in yoga or alternative medicine? Precisely. These energy centers, like the chakras in Eastern philosophies or the acupuncture points in traditional Chinese medicine, are seen as key connection points within this biofield. They are hubs, areas of concentrated energy flow.
Hubs that do what?
They link your subtle energy body to your physical systems, your nervous system, your circulatory system, endocrine system, and so on. They act as interfaces between your energetic self and your physical self.
So the health and balance of our physical body are intimately connected to the flow of energy within this personal biofield. It's not just physical stuff.
Absolutely. It's all interconnected. And this energy isn't confined just to our physical bodies either.
Oh, how so?
We have the potential to direct this biofield energy outwards. This could manifest in ways that might seem, well, extraordinary from a purely materialistic view.
Like what?
Like the potential for telekinesis influencing objects with your mind, or telepathy sensing and interacting with the mental energies or thoughts of others, directing your energy field intentionally.
That's a fascinating idea. It suggests our energetic influence extends way beyond our physical presence. What about experiences like bilocation, being in two places at once, or remote viewing, seeing things far away? How do they fit into this time crystal egg model?
Those phenomena could be understood as projections of these subtle energies, these aspects of your awareness, beyond your physical location within the time crystal egg.
So because the whole egg is consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. Because this larger container is fundamentally about consciousness, your awareness isn't strictly limited to the confines of your physical form. It can potentially extend or project.
So in essence, parts of our consciousness can explore other spaces or times within this reality container. What about our dream states then, especially lucid dreams where we're actually aware we're dreaming?
Yes, lucid dreaming offers a really powerful glimpse into the nature of this egg. When you become conscious within a dream, the usual rules of the material world become much more flexible, right?
Definitely. You can fly, change things instantly.
Exactly. Projection and manipulation of reality within that dreamscape become easier because you're less anchored to the density of your physical body and the perceived limitations of waking life. You're operating more directly within the field of consciousness.
It's like the boundaries of the egg become more permeable or obvious in the dream state. You even propose something really radical, that atoms themselves could be seen in a similar light.
Yeah, it's a provocative thought, but the idea is that even the fundamental building blocks of our physical reality, atoms, could be considered a very, very dense and consistently experienced form of lucid dream.
Wow, so physical reality is just a very stable dream.
Much like our nighttime dreams, but with a far greater sense of solidity and permanence due to collective agreement and focus. It just highlights the underlying fluidity and potential malleability of what we perceive as fixed and solid.
This is really making me question my assumptions about, well, everything. Now, a huge question emerges from all this. If we exist within this time crystal egg, what is the purpose of it all? Why are we in the egg? Why are we having this experience?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? And the very fact that you're asking that question, that you have this innate curiosity, is part of the journey itself.
Okay.
According to this perspective, before entering this egg, we existed in a state of unified, complete consciousness. Total oneness.
This sounds pretty good. Blissful, maybe.
And while that might sound like ultimate perfection, it could also be perceived as, well, perhaps lacking the dynamism of experience. A state of unchanging completeness could arguably become a bit boring.
Huh. Never thought of ultimate oneness as potentially boring. So we chose to enter this experience, this egg, for the sake of growth, for the opportunity to experience duality, light, dark, good, bad, separation, unity, and learn through contrast.
That's the suggestion. Through countless experiences, maybe lifetimes, within the physical and subtle realms of this egg, we gradually evolve our awareness. We learn. We grow.
What do we learn?
We learn to release our attachments to individual identities, our need to cling to the human experience as the only reality. The goal, in a sense, is to become less dense, less identified with the limitations of form, and remember our connection to the whole.
And what happens when we reach that point of becoming less dense? When we've learned those lessons, what's the next stage?
That's where the concept of hatching comes in.
Hatching from the egg.
Exactly. It represents a transcendence beyond the limitations of the egg, beyond the constraints of linear time, physical space, and the duality of opposing forces like good and evil, self and other.
What's that like?
A being that has hatched recognizes all of its experiences, all of its incarnations, perhaps simultaneously integrating them into a unified understanding. They see the whole picture.
So hatching is like graduating from this reality container, and what exists beyond those boundaries? Is it just nothingness?
Far from it. The realm beyond the egg is described as a state of infinite wonder and creation, pure potentiality realized. Beings who have transcended this level, it said, become creators themselves, capable of forming their own eggs, their own realities, out of pure imagination and boundless love.
Creating universes.
Essentially, yes. This realm, it suggested, can be glimpsed sometimes through deep meditation, profound mystical experiences, visionary states, near-death experiences, those moments where the veil thins.
It sounds like a realm that's almost impossible for our current minds, our language, to fully grasp, which leads to something you mentioned earlier, the inherent limitations we face.
Exactly. Trying to fully describe the divine or the realm beyond the egg using our current human language and scientific instruments is inherently restrictive. It's like trying to describe color to someone born blind.
Our tools are built for inside the egg.
Precisely. Language is a framework created within this reality, and our science is based on measuring phenomena within the egg. Recognizing these limitations can actually be incredibly liberating.
Liberating? How so?
It frees us from the need to perfectly categorize and define everything. We don't have to have all the intellectual answers. It allows us to relax a bit and embrace our imaginative capacity to shape our own experience within this reality, here and now.
So instead of getting totally caught up in trying to intellectually understand every single detail, which might be impossible anyway, we can focus more on experiencing and consciously creating within this framework we find ourselves in.
Precisely. This understanding is incredibly empowering. Once you really internalize the inherent malleability of reality, even subtly, you can start to consciously engage with it. You can experiment with your own power of manifestation.
How? Like trying to manifest a parking spot.
Could be. Or try those simple exercises, focusing on seeing, say, a specific unusual detail in your environment, like a purple feather, or noticing a particular sequence of numbers, like 111 or 444. Then just observe the serendipities, the meaningful coincidences that might begin to appear.
You defined serendipity in a really insightful way earlier. How did you put it?
Ah, yes. Serendipity can be seen as the convergence of time and space into a manifested form, basically. Being in the right place at the right time, in a way that feels significant and aligned with your intentions or focus.
It's like the universe, or the egg, responding to the focused energy of your consciousness.
That's the idea. It's like the egg itself is subtly shifting and reorganizing itself, or you're navigating it differently to align with your dominant thoughts and feelings.
Okay, now let's explore this idea of a universal mind field you mentioned briefly. How does that connect with the time crystal egg? Are they the same thing?
They're very closely related concepts. This mind field, sometimes referred to as the ether or the Akashic field or the zero-point field in some physics circles, It's conceived as a universal field of information that permeates all of time and space within the egg.
So it's like the underlying data layer of the egg.
You could think of it that way. It's a constantly interacting network that holds the records, the information patterns of all that has been, all that is, and all that could be. All potentials reside there.
So it's like a cosmic library or a universal internet of all possibilities and experiences. How does this field explain things like intuition, or when different people in different parts of the world independently come up with the same new invention or scientific idea?
Exactly. This field allows for phenomena like those intuitive insights, suddenly knowing something, and even premonitions, because the information isn't strictly bound by linear time. It's all accessible, potentially.
Okay.
And similarly, when you see multiple inventors or scientists independently making the same breakthrough discovery around the same time, even without communication, it could be seen as their individual consciousnesses tuning into and accessing this shared field of information, pulling out the same relevant data or idea whose time has come.
Because it's all connected in this underlying field within the egg.
It points to the underlying interconnectedness of all minds within the egg. We're not as separate as we appear.
And you see echoes of this concept, this interconnected field, in various spiritual and religious traditions throughout history.
Absolutely. If you look closely, the core teachings of many spiritual paths point towards this unified, multidimensional reality, whether they call it enlightenment, oneness, the Tao, the kingdom of heaven within, the divine matrix, or something else.
Different names, different cultural contexts.
But ultimately, they often seem to be describing different aspects of this same fundamental reality, one of infinite love, interconnectedness, and creative potential existing within this structure, this time crystal egg.
It's like different maps describing the same underlying terrain of reality.
Yeah.
This is, wow, it's a lot to contemplate. Let's try and bring it back to our current world for just a moment. You mentioned the rise of artificial intelligence. How does that, maybe surprisingly, relate to our understanding of this time crystal egg?
It's a really interesting connection to consider. The rapid advancements in AI, its increasing ability to mimic human creativity, problem-solving, intelligence, becoming quite powerful.
Scary, powerful to some.
Understandably. It's automating more and more tasks, things that used to require human intellect. And in a way, this massive shift could be seen as a catalyst.
A catalyst for what?
A catalyst for humanity to recognize its own unique inherent creativity, its deeper purpose for expression within this realm, beyond just computation or logical tasks.
So, as AI takes over some of the more routine mental work, it might actually free us up or even push us to explore our own creative potential, our intuition, our empathy, the things that truly make us human.
That's the possibility, yes. The focus could shift from simply consuming information and replicating patterns to actively creating culture, expressing our unique essence, driven by a genuine passion to contribute and serve, not just produce.
And that ties into the power of devotion, which you mentioned earlier.
It does, yeah. Devotion. How does that relate to conscious creation within this egg? Sounds quite religious. It can have religious connotations. But here, devotion is framed more broadly as a powerful force, an orientation of the heart that dissolves the illusion of separation.
Separation between what?
Between your individual self, your ego identity, and the larger unified consciousness within the egg. Your capital S self, if you like.
Okay.
When you combine a deep sense of devotion, whether it's to a principle, to love, to service, to a creative pursuit, with genuine excitement and passion for something, it becomes an incredibly potent vehicle.
A vehicle for what?
For personal transformation and conscious creation, fueled by love rather than just egoic desire or fear. It's about quieting the constant noise of the ego, the me,
And seeing the bigger picture.
and recognizing that this physical body, this flesh suit, as some call it, is just another temporary vessel or tool that consciousness uses to experience and create within the larger time crystal egg. It's not the totality of who you are.
So it's about aligning our individual will, our actions, with this deeper sense of connection and purpose fueled by passion.
Exactly. And remember, because the time crystal egg has this inherent crystalline structure, it acts like a mirror. Yeah, it reflects aspects of our own consciousness back to us through our experiences, our relationships, the situations we encounter.
So the things that trigger us, or the patterns we see repeating, they're showing us something about ourselves.
Very often, yes. They can reveal our blind spots, our judgments, the unacknowledged or oppressed parts of ourselves. What we often think of as our fixed personality might just be a limited expression, a sort of character we're playing, masking our full multidimensional being.
It's like the world around us is constantly providing feedback, showing us what's going on within our own consciousness within the egg.
Wow. Okay, so bringing this all together,
Hmm.
what practical guidance can you offer our listeners for navigating this time crystal egg more consciously? How do we live this?
Well, probably the most important thing is to find what truly excites you, what ignites your passion. Dive deeply into that, whether it's art, science, helping others, learning, whatever it is.
Follow your bliss, basically. Essentially, yes. And channel that energy with devotion, that sense of love and connection to something greater than just your personal gain.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the immense power of your awareness. Where is your focus?
Okay.
Remember your intentions. What are you choosing to create or experience? And be mindful of your emotions. They're part of that creative force.
And take care of the vessel, right? The body.
Absolutely. Take care of your physical body, mindful movement, good hydration, proper rest. It's the vehicle for your consciousness in this density. Engage in practices like meditation or even just quiet contemplation, focusing on that feeling of unity and love that underlies everything.
What about the mind?
Nurture your mind. Feed it with information that encourages growth, understanding, and expansion, rather than fear or limitation. Be aware of your desires, the wild horses, as Plato called them, but remember that your higher consciousness, the charioteer, should be the guide.
Using emotions as signals.
Yes. See your emotions as valuable signals, like notifications on your phone. They're pointing you towards what needs attention, what might be out of alignment, or what you're passionate about. They guide you on your path.
So, quick recap. Imagination is the tool.
Devotion is the vehicle.
And excitement and passion are the creating principle.
Beautifully put. And perhaps most importantly, connect with others.
Mm.
Really connect. Recognize that on a fundamental level, they are not separate from you within this egg. Treat them as you would treat another aspect of yourself.
So it's really about becoming an active, conscious participant in this incredible, complex, sometimes baffling, lucid dream of reality, using our inner resources, our focus, love, passion to create a more fulfilling and meaningful experience. That's a really empowering message.
It absolutely is. And the core understanding, the key takeaway, if there is one, is this. You, the listener, you are the witnessing consciousness at the center of this time crystal egg. Embracing this truth, even conceptually, empowers you to step fully into your role as a conscious creator of your own reality.
It gives a whole new depth to the idea that we're all interconnected and that our thoughts, feelings, and actions have a real, tangible impact, not just on ourselves, but on the whole structure.
Exactly. The ripples spread out. So, we encourage you to take these ideas with you. Maybe let them percolate. Perhaps revisit this conversation and just see how you might integrate them into your own understanding of the world and your unique place within it.
And with that, maybe we leave you with this final thought. This reality, with all its challenges, complexities, and wonders, is your personal time crystal egg, your unique field of experience. It's a subtle dream in waking life, maybe more stable, but just as much a creation of consciousness as any dream you have asleep.
And the potential to create within it, to experience real magic, is always there, always available, waiting for you to choose it, to embrace it.
Teolumen Insights, we are Nathan and Emma. Remember to like and subscribe if you found this valuable.
And may the infinite love and light of this container, this incredible egg of reality, permeate you forever, until you hatch. Much love.